Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the League of Europe YouTube channel for round number 2 of Season 7 of Division 3. My name is Aidan Carter, otherwise known as Carmentist. I'll be taking you through proceedings in Division 3 as per usual. And joining me in the commentary box once again this week is Jess. Jess, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. First used in Formula One this track in 1971, and it made a reappearance again back in 2018, and it's produced some great battling in league racing at least, and it was actually a good race in real life as well, where we saw Sergio Perez play the strategy cards right and helped his teammate as well. And what a race we saw last week as well in Imola. We saw RJ took the first win of the season and replicated what he did last season in Imola as well. So should be an interesting race. So many candidates for the win. I can't wait to get started.
Yeah, I can't wait to get started myself either. It's fair to say that last race maybe threw up a bit of a result that we weren't expecting. Quite a few people having great races last time out. Let's run you through quickly the performances from last week. Then RJ, like you mentioned, taking the win. Darian Tope in the two Williams cars finishing off the podium. Then it was Luco 5 from Camk, the top 5. Noah J, Brent, Matt, Passe, Knight, Rex and YHYY were the point scorers last time out. So we'll keep an eye on those this season. Then we'll keep an eye on what they're doing. Of course, Knight got the point as well for fastest lap. Knight is not racing tonight. Caesar is in for the first time this season. And actually, I think it's the first time we're using a reserve driver this season. So thank you to Division 3 for having good attendance so far this season. And yeah, RJ winning last time out, like you mentioned, it's a good track for him, Imola. This one maybe not so much a track he's looking forward to. And it's fair to say a lot of people last time out that we were expecting to do well didn't quite have the races they wanted, really. Passe was down there in the points. J. Cole and Old School didn't finish. Maverick, obviously runner-up in D4 last season, didn't finish. And Rekurik didn't even start last week. So yeah, plenty of drivers here looking for a bounce back after round 1.
Yeah, definitely. It was a bit unfortunate for Old School and J. Cole. Unfortunately, their wheels disconnected. Old School didn't even make it through turns 1 and 2. He got involved in an incident as well, which ended his race. But to be fair, he's good around this track, and there's a few other drivers that are good around this track as well. J. Cole actually finished 4th last season in Division 3 as well, so he's looking quite strong as well and looking to have a better form than last week as well. And we got to think about Dowie as well. Dowie got pole last week, couldn't convert it to a win, but he was still looking very strong behind RJ. And obviously his teammate as well, Topa, was looking brilliant as well. So watch out for the two Williams drivers tonight. I believe the Williams drivers are leading the constructors' standings by quite a way. So it's not just about the drivers' championship, it's about the constructors. And Dowie and Tope are looking very good as a team right now.
Yeah, they are looking very good. Like I said, double podium for Len last time out. McLaren is second in that manufacturer's 8 points back after RJ's win. And then it's 13 points back to the Aston Martin team in third, really. Nobody other really than the Williams had a strong pairing in the race with both cars. It was either one car finishing well and the other retiring, or neither of them finishing that high in the points. The next highest pairing in the points were the AlphaTauri team, and they only scored 9 points as a total last time out. So yeah, a little bit split throughout the teams last time around. So we'll see what these drivers can do. We're into qualifying for this track, and it's a little bit overcast for qualifying. Doesn't look wet, but it is an overcast start to this qualifying session. So the track grip isn't going to be at its best at this point. And it's fair to say we're going to talk about it a lot this evening, aren't we, Jess? Strategy around this track. It's a little bit up in the air. You can choose one of probably 5 strategies, and they're all fairly similar on pace.
Yeah, they are. There's pretty much either soft to medium, medium to soft. Those two are going to be kind of like risky strategies for the drivers. You've got to be very good on pace and time management to go on those strategies. And then, of course, we got the strategies where most people are going to go on inside the top 10. Soft to hard, I would say, for people that are not good on tyre, in particular those that are on a pad this evening. And then, of course, we got medium to hard and hard to medium as well for people outside the top 10. But then they may go something different, I don't know. But it's interesting to see 3 people on the mediums right now, so that's their tyre choice. Most people are going out on the softs. The first driver to come out of the pit is an Aston Martin and a Mercedes going out as well. So they're keen to get the ground running quite early. It is J-Luke, of course, who did have a good race in Imola as well. He crashed out as well, and he started last at the back of the grid last week in Imola because he couldn't join in time, and the lobby had some issues. Let's hope touch wood their lobby doesn't have any issues tonight, but he's on track at least, so at least he can get a qualifying lap and hopefully have a much better result than last week, because he had some strong performances at the end of last season. So We predicted him to be the underdog, and he just wasn't quite there. And I believe he was on the wrong game version, because I think he has a PS5 and he actually played on the PS4 version. So that kind of explains why he was off his pace last week as well. So we'll see how the Mercedes does, and of course we've got J. Cole as well, who's out on track as well. We'll see what he does as well.
Yeah, we'll see what he can do. Just looking in the stream chat, by the way, at the moment, it looks like we've got a wet start to this race, and it may dry out towards the end. So scratch that, what we just said about strategies. It looks like it might be a little bit different, but the fact that it may be a wet start to the race is a little bit more surprising at the fact that a lot of people have gone out on the mediums if we do have a wet start. They may be compromising themselves in this qualifying session, but it does put a little bit more emphasis on this qualifying. Of course, it is more difficult to overtake in the wet. There are plenty of places to overtake on this track, but that still makes it quite difficult. We're going to ride on board, though, with J. Cole for the first lap around this track in qualifying, so let's see what he can do. He'll take us through this track. 15 corners around the Paul Ricard circuit here, not as many of the other tracks on this calendar. Then down this pit straight and in towards turns 1 and 2, of course rising over the crest of turn number 2, probably one of the only parts of elevation change on this track. Dips down a little bit on the exit. You can pick up understeer on the exit at that corner because of that, but nice and neat through there so far. Turns 3, 4 and 5 coming up, then a little bit of a chicane through 3 and 4, but they're quite long corners, and then the hairpin of turn number 5 to end the first sector, and it's a 22.3 in the first sector. Not a bad first sector on the medium compound tyres. Through 6, through turn 7, that's not really a corner, and then onto this massive back straight, of course. Huge back straight. This one's split in half by the chicane, of course, the Mistral straight and the Mistral chicane down the middle. The GT drivers would be going flat out past this chicane at this point. Formula 1, there is a braking zone and a chicane through 8 and 9 then. Hops over the curb on the left-hand side, and then down the second part of the straight there. No DRS down this second part. It's a 50.1 by the end of the second sector for J. Cole. Then through turns number 10, again, an easy flat corner. This could be a very interesting spot in the race, especially in the wet conditions. Through the double apex of turn 11. Understeer picking up midway through, and then a little bit of a camber to the second part to make the turning a little bit easier. And then turn 12 is completely off camber, so the very opposite. Don't want to touch the curb on the inside. Runs it out to the curb on the outside quite nice. It's been a neat lap so far from J. Cole through 13, then into turn 14, another long left-hander. This is where the tyres will start to cry towards the end of the lap. And then the final corner of turn 15, tight hairpin, and then a long run down to the pit straight. Of course, the line has been moved about 50 to 100 metres further down the straight compared to it was on previous games. It's a 30.3 from J. Cole on the medium compound tyres. Solid opening lap on the mediums, but maybe some people could go a little bit faster than that. J. Luke goes half a second slower on his medium run. Next across the line will be one of the Red Bulls, I believe. I think that may be Cam K. First lap on the softs, a 1 minute 30.1, only 2 tenths clear, well, a tenth and a half clear of J. Cole at this point in the session. We're probably expecting pole to be in and around the low 29s, maybe the 28s, if they can absolutely nail a lap.
Yeah, definitely. And I've actually been speaking to Cam and some of the drivers today about their views about the race, and Cam is probably one of the only drivers who said to us that he wanted rain in the race. So he gets his wish, not for the whole race, unfortunately for him, but at least he gets it at the start of the race. And usually the races he does quite well in the wet, but it is a stronger grid compared to obviously last season when he was in D4. So a lot of work to do. A few more people to cross the line to finish their laps. We've got Dowie, last week's pole sitter, comes across P3, and Tope, his teammate, a 129.3. So you said, Ada, we were going to be in a 129. We weren't expecting it to be this early on. So the Williams looking very, very strong so far in this qualifying session. We got last week's race winner, who's going through sets 2, but his teammate, however, Old School, who didn't even finish the race last week, is in P2. Now, Old School was very, very gutted about his result as well, and he said in our driver thoughts, it's giving a real false sense of vulnerability to the absolute rabble that is a general populace of the cesspit. I can't even understand what he was saying, and he wants to not encounter Passe in this race. I'm guessing they had a bit of coming together during quali and the race as well, so we'll see how both of them do anyway. But that is looking very good for Old School right now. But what, not really a surprise, a Williams is on top, but not the one we were expecting.
Yeah, maybe not the one we were expecting, like you say, but Williams had a great qualifying. Both drivers had a great qualifying in Imola. Maybe didn't have the race pace, but great qualifying. And again, Tope carrying that on in this session. Just on board with Maverick now, coming up towards the line. He didn't have a great race, unfortunately, last time out, but he crosses the line, and he now goes onto the front row of the grid, a tenth of a second clear of Old School then. So it's a Williams and a Red Bull at the top of the timesheets. Red Bull second and fourth at the moment, but a big spread in the field. The top 5 separated by a second at the moment. That is a big spread. A Caesar now goes into third place, splits Maverick and Old School. Of course, Caesar in as a reserve this evening. Mats crosses the line, goes P5 in the AlphaTauri. He finished in the points last time out, P8, just behind his teammate. So he is up there once again into the 29s. A few more people on their runs at the moment. Brent is just at the start of his first run on a set of the soft compound tyres. I think RJ is going again on his mediums, but he's had a poor first sector, so it looks like he's not going to improve. A lot of people then out on the medium compound tyres for their first run. Everybody from 7th down, I think, did their runs on the medium compound tyre, apart from Dari. So that's interesting to see a lot of people going out for the mediums early, maybe saving a set of softs for the race, possibly because, like we mentioned, it may dry out towards the end of the race. So if it's late on in the race, a fresh set of softs could be very useful at the very end.
Yeah, I got to agree as well, because you'd rather have a fresh set of softs than a fresh set of mediums, to be honest, because you never know when the rain is going to end, to be honest, as well. So I completely understand why people would go on to the medium tyres as well, as we're seeing Brent. He finished, I think it was 5th last time out in France last season, and he was very, very close to a podium in that race. So he's one of the drivers to watch out for in the race. He's coming towards the final corner now to finish his lap. Let's hope he does not invalidate. It's looking very, very good so far, as he's taken the left-hand side run to the line, and it is going to be pole position for him. Provisional pole with a 129.3. We've got quite a few drivers going into the pits right now, so I think that is it for most of the runs so far. We've got YHYY, who's about to start his lap heading towards the final corner. But yeah, the heavy hitters are doing quite well at the moment, with obviously Brent on top as well. But the drivers, we got to say, haven't put as much practice in the wet and the dry around here, because there's some understeery parts of the track, like we were saying, which were very, very hard in the wet. They're probably regretting that they didn't practice as much in the wet compared to the dry, but at least they don't have to worry about the tyre degradation, because obviously it will be changeable conditions, and they won't have to worry either doing soft to hard, medium to hard, or whatever. Basically, the strategy writes itself in the race. We don't even know what the right strategy is going to be. It's going to be so intense right now. So we've got YHYY and Reds on laps. Reds didn't have a good race last time out either. He was another one of our DNFers. Let's see what he can do and replicate his good form as well. And it's not about how you start the season, it's how you finish the season. And sometimes one race may be just an off race for him. So let's hope in the second one he had a strong performance in France. Some of these new drivers, we don't know what their performance is. So we don't know if they're going to be good around France. We don't know if they're going to be bad around France. So it's pretty much open-ended for some of these drivers. But Reds is going through sector 2. 22.0, not the fastest out of anyone so far, but in the first sector. But still looking pretty decent. We'll see if he comes out of 19th place. Still 4 drivers yet to their lap time, Aiden.
Yeah, still 4 drivers, like you say. YHY is just invalidated as well, his second run in this session, so he's still at the very back. Passé not set a time in this session. Marty's out on the medium compound tyre, looking for his next run in this session. And like you said, perfect. Of course, it's how you finish the season, not how you start it. Perfect example of that. Our Division 3 champion from last season, Forza Brendan, retired from the first race of the season, so anything can happen for you throughout the rest of the season. Reds has kept it valid through the majority of this lap. Got 2 more corners to go. We'll see if he keeps it valid towards the very end of this lap. Then it is starting to get a bit more sunny, so those clouds have disappeared as J. Cole now goes to the top of the timesheets on a 29.1. That's a lovely lap from the Aston Martin man. 0.2 of a second clear. Reds crosses the line, goes P4 on a 29.4, so a good lap time on the board from the Alfa Romeo man. And again, Tope is on a lap at the moment now in the Williams, but it's a few different people at the front of the qualifying compared to what we saw last week, isn't it? J. Cole right at the front now. Bunty's gone second on the 29.2 in the other Alfa Romeo, so he jumps to the front of the timesheets. And this is maybe kind of what we were expecting. We didn't see a lot of the heavy hitters perform very well last week, and France is, in nature, a completely different track to Imola. So we're seeing a lot more new people at the front of the field in qualifying. J. Cole and Bunty up there, Brent up there as well, Red's right up there. So a few new people to the top, and Tope at the moment hasn't improved in the first 2 sectors on his second run. We'll see how his final sector is. Maybe he overheated his tyres towards the end of his run on the first set of tyres. Someone else has just crossed the line to improve. That's Marty, who's gone 11th on the mediums. That's a brilliant lap time for Marty there to be P11 on a 30.1, but there's of course still more time if he puts the soft compound tyres on. Tope then around the final 2 corners as Luco 5 goes P9 in the second Aston Martin. Tope then up towards the line. His teammates crossing the line now to finish his run. Dari goes 5th. Tope crosses the line and only manages to find half a 10th in that final sector. So Tope back up onto the second row in 3rd position, but it was a great first one for Tope, but he's not found anything on the second run, interestingly.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching his final set. It didn't look the best, if you ask me. Some people were actually getting quicker in the final set compared to the other two sectors, but Tope, not so sure, even though he was a few 100s quicker. And sometimes the pressure just gets to you. You perform well in the first race of the season. It is a new track for some of these drivers as well, but this is a track which has been on the game for quite a while as well. So no excuses for some of these drivers as well. But there are a majority of drivers on this grid that hate this track, so they are going to be relieved to potentially get it out of the way in this qualifying session. Maverick is going to be the next driver to cross the line. Nope, he's not. He's going into the pits, as if I said that as well. I think quite a few drivers are going into the pits as well. Matt is about to start his out lap as well, so we'll keep an eye on him throughout the session as well. Anyone else on the lap? Hardly anyone else on the lap, actually. Maybe the two houses we'll keep an eye on right now. Vukovic, who is his first race of the season, of course, he actually responded to my questions. He hardly ever does respond to anything in the chats in G3 last season. He has this season, of course. He actually was on vacation last week, and his expectation for the race, point and no penalties. Well, getting penalties around here is very tricky, and he's in the pit, as I said that. And obviously he can't do better than last week because obviously he was on vacation in Finland. So yeah, points and no penalties. Quite hard to do so for Vukovic, but obviously he did well last season. P3, can he get 2 places higher and get a P1? J-Lu is on a medium run. He didn't improve though, just 3 100 slower than his previous best. Caesar up to the line. He does not improve either. He stays in 10th position.
Yeah, the two McLarens improved in that time as well. RJ's gone 4th, Old School 8th. He was up to 7th, but drops down a place with RJ improving. Interestingly, Wyatt Chawai and Vukovic, two drivers you would expect to be at the front, 18th and 19th. Noah J finished 6th last week. He's 17th at the moment. And Passe is last without a time on the board. With only 4.5 minutes left in this session, Passe is leaving it to the very last moment to get a run in this session, but it has not been the start to qualifying that he would have wanted. Matt's at the moment, I think, the only one on a run. He's backed off, though. He's not improving on his run at the moment. Noah J is on a lap, but he's invalidated. So everybody is pretty much back into the pits. Getting ready for their final runs in this session. They're going to leave it to the very end. Caesar is on a lap by the looks of things, but you don't really want to be improving on your second lap on the softs because the softs around here are diabolical, really. You go for about 3 laps and then they die. He is backed off by the looks of things. He's turned his DRS off, so I imagine he will be diving into the pit lane at the end of this lap. It's still Jayco on provisional pole from Bunty in 2nd place and Tope in 3rd. RJ, though, good for RJ up in 4th. RJ struggled with qualifying a lot last season. He had a good qualifying in Imola, qualified 6th. At the moment, currently P4, around a track he maybe wasn't expecting a good result. So for our championship leader, 4th on the grid at the moment, a pretty solid qualifying effort as it stands.
Yes, RJ did not score any points last season in France, was very, very unlucky, whereas obviously this season in qualifying he's looking a lot better, so hopefully it translates to him to the races. Red and Luke are very keen to get their final laps underway, as they're on their out laps at the moment, and it could be critical because if people win it on their final runs, then their banker laps could be enough for some people. So Red and Luke pretty much want to be the drivers to have less traffic. Marty's doing exactly the same thing. He has just come out and now heading towards turn 2 and 3. A lot of people are actually going on their final runs as well. Vukovic and Passe are definitely going to leave it all to the last minute because they're the only ones who have not set representative lap times yet. I'm sure he could go way faster than that. Obviously, Passe not saying a lap time yet as well. And Old School, I was speaking to him as well before the race. Old School wants to beat Passe this race, and Old School will be pretty happy that Passe is in the back of the grid this week. But Passe expectations, well, he's very excited about this track. One of his favourite tracks, apparently, and he's looking forward to seeing the French flags and French fans out there, and he hopes he finishes higher up than last week and also has a clean race. Well, you're seeing in last, my friend, and to start last on your favourite track is not good, but I still have confidence that you can climb up the field. But like we said, it's a very hard track to overtake on, so starting last around there is not the end of the world, but there is sometimes a bit of carnage in G3 in some races, so he could fight back from this, or he could do very, very well when the track gets even worse, or when the track dries out again. So watch out for passing the end of the race. Everyone is coming out on the track now. Everyone is going on their out lap, so we're going to see in about a few minutes' time who gets pole position. Will Jacob be able to keep it, or will last week's pole sitter Derry be able to set a time out of nowhere? We'll have to wait and see, Aidan.
You have to wait and see. Just on board with Reds at the moment, he has got a lot of traffic in front of him on the track, but he might be about to get a nice tow down this back straight. Tope moves out of the way, but he's got a Mercedes in front of him that hasn't quite moved out of the way yet, so this could help Reds down the back straight. A lot of traffic, though, to start his run. Luke as well might catch this traffic at the end as they back off to get ready for their final run. Some of the drivers have come out quite late. Both Ferraris have come out at the very last opportunity, really, to get their final runs in. Same with, I believe, one of the Alfa Romeos, that would be Bunty, as Reds through the second sector, only half a tenth up through the first two sectors. He's cleared the majority of the traffic now, so he should have a pretty clean run to the end of the lap. At the moment, that improvement would put him back ahead of Dowie and onto the third row of the grid, but he'll be looking maybe for a couple more tenths to put him up into the top 5 in this final sector then, which is where the majority of the corners are. It's the longest sector on the track, so this is where you're probably bound to see most of the drivers gaining the majority of their time in the session. Reds then through the penultimate corner and then into the final corner. The McLaren in front of him, that is RJ just starting his final run, so he is not going to interfere in the Alfa Romeo's lap. Reds will be the first person to complete the session, I believe. He crosses the line then and goes P5. He does find nearly 2 tenths in that final sector, goes up to P5 for the time being, but we're still yet to see everybody else come into the line. Luke will be the next one to cross the line in the Aston Martin. He's 2 tenths up by the end of the second sector. There was a Ferrari just behind him at the start of that lap. I don't know if the Ferrari got in the way. Doesn't look like it because Luke has improved in the final sector, but only gone P9, interestingly, with that time. So Luke not the strongest of qualifying sessions here, and now it's all about the swarm of cars coming to the line. Mats is in the pits. He's not going to get a time on the board. Bunty crossed the line with 2 seconds to spare, so he's just got to the line in time to start his final run. Interestingly, both Hasses have gone for the mediums. Rakurit crosses the line and goes 15th only, but that suggests to me that maybe they're thinking of a dry start to this race, and he wants to start outside the top 10. As look at that time from J. Cole, a 28.7. That is a brilliant lap time from J. Cole to go half a second clear at the top of the timesheets. We'll have to see if anybody can get close to that, but I doubt it, as Rex now crosses the line. All of a sudden, from nowhere, goes into P2 in the Alpine. That's a good lap time. Brent now third. Bunty's dropping down the order. Tope's invalidated. He's not going to be any better. RJ's also invalidated. Reds is not on another run. Dowie's coming towards the end of his lap. One of the Red Bulls crosses the line. That, I believe, is Alt Maverick. He is out of the session. He's not going to improve. Old School will be actually next to cross the line. Currently 9th on the grid. He comes up towards the line. Where does he go? Goes third onto the second row of the grid. Good lap time there from Old School across the line. Dowie comes. He is, of course, out of the session. RJ out of the session as well. He's not going to improve on his time. Next is going to be one of the Mercedes. That's J. Luke, currently 19th on the grid. He's invalidated at 29.8. That would have only put him 14th on the grid. Passe next. He's not invalidated, so he will get a time on the board. Passe crosses the line and it goes P2. The next driver into the 28. It's a good lap time from Passe. He left it to the very last moment, but he gets up there. What can Bunty do now to the line? Last person on a lap, currently 6th. Goes third, a 29.0 at the end of the session. Good lap time from Bunty, but J. Cole in the end, great qualifying from him. You mentioned it at the start of the stream. He finished 4th here last season. He was one of the front runners at this track last season. He's proved it again here. 28.7, 2 tenths clear at the top with Passe on the front row alongside him.
Brilliant stuff from J. Cole. Well, one of his expectations is one of his best tracks, and he's hoping to win the race. Well, he's on pole position, and he's looking very, very strong to do so. And talk about Passe leaving it to the bitter end there. To be honest, I was watching the Formula E qualifying session yesterday and today. They were doing one-shot qualifying there as well. Passe literally did a one-shot quali because none of his laps were good enough. And was validated up until his final lap. So I wouldn't be able to do that around this track. So talk about brilliance from Passe there. Just 2 tenths off of J. Cole as well. And to be honest, D3 is unpredictable around there. Our pole sitter from last week is only in 10th position, and our race winner from last week is not even in the top 5. He's in P8 at the moment. So a lot of work to do for these guys, but chance for a new winner to top the timing sheet. So
yeah.
There we go.
Very different to last week, this grid. It's J. Cole, Passe, Bunty, your top 3. Rex, Old School, Brent, Tope, RJ, Reds and Dowie, your top 10. First person outside the top 10 to choose their fresh set of tyres is Luke. Then it's Cam K, Matt, Alt Maverick, Caesar, Noah J, Marty, Rakurik, White White and J. Luke round off the grid. Our bottom 4 didn't set a time on the soft compound tyres. They have gone for something a little bit different in this session, so look out for them in the race. Mentioned it's possibly a dry start to this race, and it may go wet very quickly. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that one. So if it is a dry start and it goes wet within the first 2 laps, then those at the start, and it does look dry for the start of this race, those at the front of the grid on the softs will be hoping that it rains within the first 3 laps, because anything beyond lap maybe 4 or 5, the mediums are just going to be the stronger tyre, aren't they? So the mediums will come into play, and they could shoot through the pack of soft runners here. So it's all about when the rain comes and how quickly it falls, and that can play perfectly for the soft runners. I think the one person I feel really sorry for here at the start of this race is Darry, in 10th position on the grid on the soft compound tyres. He could be the first of those drivers to really suffer if the rain doesn't come down quick enough.
Yeah, definitely. I have to say, if you watched the PC race last night, it was changeable conditions there as well. Hopefully the PC runners these runners here would have had a chance to watch the PC stream last night. Obviously, J-Car and RJ did race on the PC side last night as well, and they probably have a bit of advantage knowing what to do as well. Unsurprisingly, all the top 15 have gone for the soft tyres. Well, the top 10 have to start on the softs anyway. Luke, Cam, Matt, Maverick, and see the think the rain's going to come early. They've gone for the soft. Everybody else from 16 downwards gone for the mediums. And we just seen in the chat from one of the drivers that it's going to rain in the first 10 minutes. So they think it's going to come probably earlier, I think. But you never know on this game. It's set to approximate. It could come 10 minutes. It could come in the first few laps for all we know. So who would have played their cards right? Would it be the soft runners or would it be the medium runners? We'll just have to wait and see. And it is going to be, I think it's going to start off dry, then it's going to rain. And then after that, it's probably going to dry towards the end of the race. So we're going to start with a dry, wet, dry race. I wouldn't know what tyres to be on for any stage of the race. This is going to be an unpredictable race once again, but this time with the weather.
Yeah, I think this one is going to be all about who can manage those intermediates if we go on to those. I don't imagine if it's going to dry off by the end that we will look at the full wets in this race, but we know tyre wear around this track is very high. If you can't get through an intermediate stint without having to make a pit stop for another set of intermediates, that could ruin your race. So if you can manage those intermediates and do no stops during the wet stint of this race, that could play beautifully into your hands. We will wait and see. Of course, the intermediates are a softer compound than the soft tyres, and we know how badly the softs wear around this track. So yeah, the intermediates could be fast, but could be terrible in terms of tyre wear. So we'll have to keep an eye out for this one in the race. I think the bottom 5 starting on the mediums is a fair choice. They may as well do something different and hope it goes their way. They're not going to lose anything by being on the mediums. The mediums are a good tyre here, but they're not going to gain anything if they start on the softs, the same as the 5 drivers in front of them. So they may as well try something different and hope it goes their way. We shall wait and see who has got the best strategy. Before we get going though, Jess, I'm going to ask you the impossible question. Who do you think is going to win this race?
I literally don't know. Again, like you said, it's going to be who's going to be handling the conditions the best. We've got, I think, J. Cole up there, but I don't think he's going to win personally. I'm going to go Bunty for the race win and J. Cole second, and I'm going to go Brenton P3. Don't forget, RJ started 6th last week, won the race. Brent started 6th this week. So I'm expecting big things for the driver that scored very well as well last season. Just finished behind J. Cole last season in France. So look out for him. Look out for J. Cole. Look out for everybody. Look out for the medium runners. We're about to get underway here at Paul Ricard.
Yeah, let's get going then for the second round of the season. The 5 lights are on ahead of the drivers. Who gets the best start? Long hold, but we are away for the second round of the season, and Bunty from the second row has got a stunning start. In fact, both of the drivers on the second row have had a brilliant start. Bunty straight into the lead. What a great start for him. Passe, gets sandwiched in the middle through turn 1 between J. Cole and Rex. Nowhere to go, and Passe from a great qualifying is down to the back of the field. Marty has also spun around. He is towards the back as well. He's had some contact, but the second row starters had an amazing launch off the line. Bunty clearing to the lead well before turn 1. Rex around the outside as well, but really unfortunate for Passe. Nowhere to go really in that first corner, sandwiched between J. Luke and Rex in a 3-wide situation. One of them had to back out and none of them did. Passe's come off the worst. He's down to 16th position. RJ is down to 15th as well. He's had a horror start. Noah J from 16th on the grid on the mediums is up to 12th. It's been a brilliant start for some of the medium runners. Both Hasses and Noah J are up places. Passe trying to work his way past RJ for 15th and maybe past White Hawaii for 14th as well. He's going to go round the outside. Looks like by the looks of things, Passe's got away with no damage, but that is a horror show of a start for the Ferrari.
Yeah, it is. What a shame there. But both of the front runners were caught napping, to be honest, especially J. Cole as well. But Bunty, out of nowhere, I was riding on board with him at the start. He just got the better launch, the better reaction time as well. He was on the left-hand side of the grid as well. He got the toe as well, and he was like, you know what, I want to get that race lead, J. Cole, and there's nothing you could do to stop it. And to be honest, Bunty is looking favourite at the moment, but don't forget, DRS will be activated on lap 3. Rex is looking quite comfortable as well. Be aware of penalties as well, as we've seen quite a few drivers go into the pits already. So I think Reds has picked up damage, Max has picked up damage as well. So that's a bit of a shame. So those two will be dropping further down as well. I would expect Passe to pit, but he might just spun, so he might have got away quite lightly compared to everybody else so far. But I have to say, Recurrent got a good start, same with Noah J as well. Jaylen's gained a few positions as well, but biggest loser had to be Passe. Even though he was towards the back around turn 2 and turn 3, he's made his way back up to 12th. So to be honest, his comeback is looking pretty good so far, but nowhere where he needed to be after starting quite high in qualifying. So now we're going to go into this back straight of turn 7 and 8. Very, very key to get the toe here as well. Rex looking quite comfortable. If there was DRS activated, surely it would have gone for a move. But J. Cole is going to try and fire back towards turn 8, heading towards turn 9, keeping it nice and tidy as these three. And also, look at this. We got Brent in the action as well. We've got the McLaren of Old School behind as well. We're going to see who's going to come out on top. No free abreast bleeds into turn 10. They're not going to go free abreast, but J. Cole gets P2. There's quite a few squabblers at the back. Old School is up to 4th. Rex has had a bit of a spin in turns 10 there, and I think he reset the track, or did the game reset the track for him? I don't know, but he's letting other drivers through, so I assume he's got a bit of damage there as well. But J. Cole, brilliant overtake there from him. He's up into P2 after being down into P3 off the start as well, and Brent was doing very well to be in this battle too. But Bunty is probably loving these guys battling up behind because he could just stretch the gap a little bit.
Yeah, stretch the gap a little bit. Unfortunately there, Brent kind of was, well, going around the outside of the Alpine of Rex and didn't really leave him enough space, and around went Rex. He didn't reset, he just did a full 360 and got going again, so he's okay in that side of things. Marty, though, interestingly, on the medium compound tyres, is the fastest man on the track, but he's down in 16th place at the moment. The medium runners, Noah J and Recurric, are up to 9th and 10th, so this first lap has worked out lovely for those two at the moment. White White's not made the same progress, but he has worked his way forward as well, up to 13th position. Passe and RJ, the two drivers, want to work their way back through, but RJ seems to be struggling a little bit on the soft tyres. No rain as of yet onto lap 3, so the DRS has now been enabled. The top 3 breaking away. Old School has dropped DRS to Brent, and that's going to allow Taupe to go for the move here down the inside into the chicane. Taupe down the inside, Old School braking early, not fighting it. Taupe is up into 4th. Old School drops down into 5th, but the top 3 breaking away. As it happened in Imola, the top 3 breaking away from the rest of the field. Taupe into 4th, Old School down to 5th, and Darry in the other Williams in 6th is a little bit separated with both of the Red Bulls directly behind him. Recurric in 9th on the mediums, but 2 seconds back, having lost DRS a little bit early on. He's just passed Noah J down that back straight as well, so keep an eye out for Recurric in this race, already up to 9th from 17th on the grid.
Don't forget, Recurric got a podium last season, finished in 3rd, so this is one of his strongest tracks on the calendar, so it is to be expected that he's in 9th place. To be honest, I was watching him climb through the field, and the overtakes he's made to get past was absolutely brilliant, so we'll see if he can get past the 2 Red Bulls next. So don't forget, the top 12 do score points in this race, so plenty of incentives to keep going if you had a bad race. Old School is really desperate to try and get past the car of Tope in front in the Williams as well. Maverick has had a good overtake past Darry up on the chicane into P6 as well. Brilliant stuff in the Red Bull.
Darry's round.
As we're seeing Darry's round. Darry's round in turn 1. And I wonder what he has done there, but I didn't see him on board. I saw the move that Maverick made as well, but Darry, our pole sitter from last week, is just showing that he's not that good in the race around it, to be honest. And he's down into 18th position. That is not good. He's going to hope the rain is going to come soon and fast.
Yeah, he's really going to hope for it. It's change for Lee. J. Cole gets past Bunty, and Old School repasses Taupe as well for P4, so it's all swapping around. Remember, DRS around this track is incredibly powerful. Unfortunately for Darry, he just lost it on the curb on the inside of turn 2, and a lot of our soft runners that started this race on the softs are having horror shows of races. Rex and Darry down the back of the field. Reds and Matt's had to pit for damage. RJ's struggling down there. Passe's back up to 10th, by the way. He was 19th after turn 2 on lap 1, and he's made his way back into the top 10 already, and is clinging on to the medium runners. Recurric Rekurik on this lap has taken 9/10 of a second out of the Red Bulls. Those mediums are already faster than the softs, and look at that. He's already, a lap ago, was 2.3 seconds behind Kamke. He's now into comfortable DRS range. So those medium tyres already look the faster compound. White to white, so he's up another place into 11th, and he's onto the back of Passe. So now the medium tyres are the better tyre at this point in the race. So onto lap 5, and still there is no rain. So now it's all about when the rain comes down. If the rain holds off for another 3 or 4 laps, surely Rekurik and Noah J here have a massive opportunity of just blitzing through this field. And especially with a lot of the soft runners making mistakes early on, there is not that huge train we were maybe expecting. The biggest train at the moment is actually directly behind Kamke, with Rekurik and Noah J leading the way at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. And I have to say, the rain could come out in unpredictable phases right now. So, some races where the rain comes out and it takes a while for the track to get wet enough to go into winters, and then there's some moments where the rain just comes as soon as possible. We got another change for the lead.
There we go.
And speaking of that, that was good timing from myself, of course. The rain had come. So I think the soft runners have just breathed a sigh of relief there for these guys, because the softs could only last 8 laps around this track, and obviously the mediums were looking very, very good. And the one thing to watch out for now is the tyre temperatures. That's what a few drivers were saying to me, that they were struggling around this track as well as the DRS. So that's probably why a few people were just spinning, and obviously when you do spin, tyres can overheat massively as well. So they just got to keep an eye on these guys with this battling as well. And this is not good news for the medium runners actually now, because they were hoping that the softs will have to pit. Doesn't look like it. They're just going to hope to the rain god, so the rain just stays like this and be enough for them, for everybody else to pit, and then jobs are good. But we're seeing, I think Cam going into the pit. That is early for the Red Bull driver. Is he going for an early gamble and going on the inters before it's wet enough to go on the inters? Let's have a look then. Yes, it is. And intermediate tyres for the Red Bull driver. He does say he likes the rain, and he's going to hope that he gets a good result here as well. Is that going to suggest that other people go into the pits as well? It is coming down thick and fast. It's actually quite slippery, so Cam might have made a strategic call of dreams here, actually. It is actually quite slippery. The soft runners are struggling.
Yeah, it does look like that might have been the right time. The only problem for Kamke is he had to change his front wing, unfortunately. So Kamke's had a front wing change, but it does look intermediate conditions at the moment, doesn't it? It looks like it's right on the cusp at the moment. So Kamke could have timed that quite well. J. Cole back into the lead, but look at him struggling for traction out of the chicane. Bunty right behind as well. The rain lights are now on these cars. Tope has repassed Old School again. So these two swapping places constantly. Rekurik on the back of Alt Maverick. We still have DRS enabled for the time being, but it's not far away from being disabled at the moment. Kamke at the back of the field, interestingly, can't quite keep up with Mats as it stands. It's about 2 seconds the gap. You've got to look out for turn 10. That fast right-hander is where these drivers on these tyres are going to struggle. And as I say that, J. Luke has gone for a spin through that corner, just proving my point. That corner on slick tyres in the wet, even on wet tyres in the wet, is very difficult to get right. It's deceiving, that corner. You think it's fully flat, and it ends up not being, as J. Cole's in. Bunty stayed out.
No,
Bunty has stayed out. That is not the call. That's not the call we should have made. That is a big mistake from Bunty. That is a huge mistake. It is far too wet for the slick tyres. He's going to plummet down the field as literally everybody behind him comes into the pit lane. Not another driver has stayed out. Everybody's even double stacking, knowing it is that wet on the track. It is a bit of carnage in the pit lane, of course, because everybody's in at the same time. J. Cole leaves the pit lane. But the thing is here, J. Cole here could have a massive lead coming into this wet phase of the race now, because Bunty stayed out. Bunty's got a time penalty on top of it as well. Brent's the only one close to J. Cole. Brent is 1.7 seconds back, and then there's a 3-second gap back to Tope.
Wow, and I hope Bunty wasn't paying attention, because I was definitely paying attention. We did see just before J. Cole pit the DRS is now disabled, so Bunty is probably putting his head in shame, and he probably thinks, oh, you would lose time from the double stack. Well, you will lose even more time just by staying out. Just look at the way he's crawling through turns 8 and 9 now. You'll just lose more time. He's off as well. So if I was him, I would have pitted. I don't care, but to be honest, it's looking really, really bad for a driver who was looking so good at the start of this race, and that's good news if you're J. Cole as well. He's going to have a massive lead, and he's 2.2 seconds clear of Brent, so that is very, very decent so far. And with no DRS as well, It's going to be so hard to mistake. The understeery parts of the strap is going to be even more understeery as well. And Noah J was even pointing out to that with his expectations. DRS is key, so he's just got to rely on the slipstream, I think, at the moment, and make sure he doesn't overheat his tyres, because I've did some practice around here in the wet today. Overheating the tyres can be a bit more recurrent in the wet conditions, because you do struggle a little bit, you do tend to lock up a little bit more as well. So Bunty comes into the pits, he's going to lose so much time because everyone else pitted before him. 22.5 seconds you lose by being in the pit lane. So watch Jayco heading towards the final corner. That is definitely going to be the race lead for him, which is probably what he was not expecting, but he was aiming for the win today so far. And Brent will come across the line in second. Bunty will drop near the back of the grid at this rate.
Yeah, we've got a yellow flag. Oh, out of the race. Is that going to be a safety car, I wonder? Yep. Yes, it is. Full safety car. So that saves the people at the back. But the problem for Bunty is Bunty's coming out the pit lane directly behind the safety car, so he can't go full speed on the pit exit. So he's stuck behind the Aston Martin safety car. He's got to make sure he doesn't hit it. He doesn't. But a net P2 for Bunty, at least. He's now 9th with a time penalty. That is a horror show for Bunty. That was not the strategy call that he needed to make. I feel bad for Camke as well. That front wing change for him cost him big time, down to 11th position. He could have been right up with his teammate, who is now up into 5th place as Alt Maverick. So he's had a very good start to this race. We'll have a look at the positions gained after that first lap. Rekurik is up 12 places. Up 12, wow, 18th on the grid to 6th for Rekurik.
Wow.
Starting on the mediums has worked beautifully for him, and if there's ever a man to drive from the back of the field to the front, it's Rekurik, isn't it? He keeps out of trouble, he's so clean and so smart, and it's paid beautifully for him, and for Noah J as well, who's up to 7th from 16th on the grid.
Yeah, I am absolutely astonished with the way Rekurik is performing in this race so far. I mean, he's just gained quite a few places, and he could be on course to be winning this race right now. I'm just so amazed about his performance so far that he could be a dark horse so far. We're keeping an eye on the tyres as well. Obviously, they're all on the same length of tyres as well in the top 8. Obviously, Bunty pitted just a lap ago, but if there was no safety car for Bunty, I think he probably would have dropped so much more, but I think the safety car came out at just the right time there for him, so he's probably quite relieved that that's happened for him at the moment. But we're just waiting, I think, for Mats to try and catch up to the safety car then as he heads towards turns 8 and 9 respectively right now as well. So it's going to be hard for some of the drivers to catch up, because obviously Jayco has not caught up to the safety car yet, so they'll still be under Delta. Let's hope they don't get any drive-through penalties as well, but we are approaching that part. No. I'm not doing very well with commentators cursing. Noah J just got a drive through for speeding under VSC. I did say it was going to rain, and at one point it rained. Now I said I hope there's not going to be any drive throughs, and boom, Noah J gets a drive through. So a bit unfortunate for Noah J, down in 7th position. So the thing is, he can't pit under safety car for drive throughs. You can only change your front wing, so you'll have to wait until the end of the first green flag lap after the safety car. So he's going to drop to the back of the grid. So a driver that we were predicting also was going to do well has fallen by the wayside, and he's been caught napping there. He must have not looked at his Delta, or the game must have been glitched or something. But yeah, Noah J, he's going to be at the back at the end of the first lap.
Yeah, that's a disaster. Having gained so many places in the opening phase of this race, all of that work is just going to get undone by that drive-through. It is I say it's a fairly simple mistake to make, but this game does give you about 15 seconds to correct your delta, so he must have been either way over his delta or not paying attention, and either way, he's got to drive through for it. J. Cole still leads, but of course, that lead that he had is now completely wiped out. There was a 4-second gap between Brent and Tope before the safety car. That gap has also been wiped out as well, so Tope right up into position once again in 3rd place. He obviously didn't have as good a qualifying as he did last time out, but he's still right up there in the Williams. Old School up to 4th now, Maverick up to 5th. Maverick is another one who's gained a lot of places. Maverick qualified 14th and he's up to 5th. Well, he's gone completely under the radar. I thought he started inside the top 10, but clearly I don't have that good a memory. So he's up a lot of places as well in this race, up to 5th. He's the only one that started outside of the top 10 on those soft compound tyres that's really made it work, you've got to say. Luke is another one, but he's only really gained places through other people making mistakes like Bunty, Passe, and Dari, really, you've got to say. So Maverick really the only one that started outside the top 10 on the softs that's made it work, up to 5th place, so that is good for him, at least after a bit of a poor round in Imola last week. Championship leader RJ, time penalty down in 14th at the moment, not what he needs, of course, for the start of this race, and Tope, who finished 3rd last time out, is currently running 3rd in this race. So as it stands, championship-wise, of course, we're only early doors, but championship-wise at the moment, not looking great for RJ after this race so far. And of course, we know it is very, very difficult to overtake in the wet conditions as J-Luke is into the pit lane. I wonder if that is to replace some damage. I think that is, we are not looking at wet tyres here. This is not going to be wet enough for wet tyres, I don't imagine, as into the pits yet. Another set of intermediates. No front wing change, but just gone for a fresh set of intermediates by the looks of things. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one. Caesar was another one that came into the pits. But, yeah, at the moment, looking good for Tope championship-wise.
Yeah, he's looking the best at the moment. I think he will be leading the championship going into the next round of the race if he keeps it up as well. But he surely wants to go on and take the win because his teammate is not doing quite so well in P15. And it just shows how quickly the order can shake up with changeable conditions. And you just got to really be on it no matter what the weather. You got to be practicing no matter what the weather. We're seeing the experience come through from some of the guys who have been in Division 3 obviously last season or who have raced last night on the PC, for example. But look at Maverick. He's the highest Division 4 driver that got moved up in P5. He finished P2 last season in Division 4. So that is looking very, very impressive for him. Obviously, we got Recurrick as well, and then we got Noah J, another D4 driver as well, and then we got some D2 drivers and some D4 drivers too. And obviously, J-Luke is the worst at the moment, but he wants to be on fresh tyres going into the end of the safety car. And I think the safety car should be coming in this lap, I believe, as well. Let us know in the chat, guys, who you think is going to be winning this race and if the track's going to dry up. And the safety car is going to be in this lap then. So J-Car will be controlling this field from now until the safety car restart line. And we'll see if he can keep this lead this time rather than have a rubbish start like he did in lap 1. So J-Car, he's got to have the restart of dreams and make sure he controls this perfectly.
Yeah, now we get to see as well who has maybe set their car up for the wet conditions, who was looking strong in the wet. This is their time now to shine in this race. J. Cole, of course, the long final sector gives you a lot of time to back the field up, and he is backing them up a little bit early. So that maybe suggests to us that he's going to go maybe a couple of corners before the line rather than on the start-finish straight. We'll wait and see when he does go and whether Brent is wise to react to it for the safety car restart. Who is going to get the best of the restarts? We shall wait and see then. That's right on board with J. Cole as he weaves from left to right through turn number 13, 14 and 15 to finish the lap. And then we are on to the start-finish straight then. When does he decide to go? He's backed up for a long time. These intermediate tyres won't be at their best, of course. They'll be fairly cold at the safety car restart by the looks of things. J. Cole has not gone out of the final corner, has he? He's just keeping a steady pace coming out of the corner. He's leaving it to the last moment. He goes now. But Brent's reacted quite well to that safety car restart. He's on his ERS. Is Brent going to think about a move into turn 1 here? Recurrick's past Alt Maverick. Brent looking down the inside, but he's not committed enough on the brakes. But J. Cole goes a little bit deep into the corner. Can Brent get the run? Maybe up towards turn number 3. No, he understeers through the corner. Can't get the run up to turn 3. It was worth a shot. J. Cole didn't really get the best of restarts, but Brent not confident enough on the brakes to go for the move in towards turn number 1. Recurrick, though, continues his march forwards. He passes Maverick at the safety car restart, and he's into the top 5 already, 11 laps in, and he's gone from 18th to 5th. What a start for Recurrick. Now what can J. Cole do at the front of the field? Brent now half a second back, of course, with no DRS in these conditions. Old School on the back of Tope, thinking about a run maybe up towards the chicane. He's on his ERS. IRT Rex passes his IRT teammate Darry for 15th on the road. Old School not close enough for a move into the Mishra chicane. Bunty and Noah J going side by side. Of course, remember, Noah J has got a drive-through penalty. He's got to serve Bunty past Luke somewhere on this lap as well. Bunty up 2 places already on this lap. That is a good move there from Bunty. He's trying to recover the places he lost at that pit stop phase. Old School looking fast in 4th at the moment, but of course it's difficult to pass in the wet. Can he think about a move into turn number 11? No, he can't. He's not close enough to think about a move on Tope, but Old School looking pretty fast in these conditions.
Yeah, he is as well, and to be honest, this day could get any better for Old School because he DNF'd in the first few corners, so he's already having a better race than last week, and he could be on course for getting his first podium in quite a long time, and a track which he doesn't really like on this calendar as well, as we're seeing Luke very, very close to some of the drivers. We're seeing Noah J actually going into the pit, so Wannabe picked up some damage there. That's probably why Luke got very, very close to him. Right now, we're keeping an eye on the front. J. Cole's increased the gap a little bit to around about 5 tenths to Brent. So I think J. Cole's a little bit more comfortable on the straights, but when he gets to corners like this, Brent just starts to close up a little bit. And obviously, the track could dry up at any moment as well, don't forget, as I believe it's going to dry up towards the end of this race as well. So that's also something they've got to think about as well as to what tyres they go on towards the end of the race as well. It's not going to stay wet for long enough, I believe, as well. So we'll see how that goes as well. We may see the runners who are good on the dry come to their own in just a moment. So we've got Vucuric actually. Looks like he could get another position, but he's a little bit too further back from Old School to do it. So Vucuric at the moment just has to stay behind the likes of Old School due to the dirty air. Unfortunately, the track temperatures has decreased a little bit as well. So that is why I think Vucuric is doing very brilliantly so far as well. Team Mercedes, though, not looking too good as well, and a lot of people are draining up their battery far too quickly. I'm keeping an eye on Brent's battery right now. He's on 40%, more than J. Cole, and he's defending. So Brent is definitely trying to go on the attack right now, but still not quite close enough. That's a bit worrying as well. We've got Caesar and Dowie going for a move into turn 11. Very hard on in the wet condition. Is Dowie going to send it up the left-hand side there? They make a bit of contact, and Caesar just about to manage to save that there. And Caesar could go for another move there. Another bit made a bit of contact again, but Dowie is up into P15 as we're seeing a bit of scrap as well and about what is going on with this Division 3 grid at the moment as Matt is trying to spoil the party right now. Oof. Oh my god. Bit of argy-bargy. This is not how you race, lads. In France, they make a bit of contact there as J-Luke is up into P16. My oh my, a lot of battling happening towards the back here.
Yeah, a lot of battling going on, and I think that's being triggered by the fact that Dowie is really struggling in these conditions. He's already 3 seconds behind Rex, who passed him a couple of laps ago. J-Luke now gets a penalty. Interestingly, Rex is let through by his teammates, so Marty lets Rex through and up into 13th. So Rex is trying to work his way back through that field after the early spin, of course, was running at the front of the field not that long ago. After a good opening lap after the safety car, Old School now struggling a little bit. He's dropped back to a second behind Taupe, and Vucuric is not too far back. Bunty continuing his march forward up to 7th, and he's within range of Maverick now. So Bunty looking strong in these intermediate conditions. He's got a brilliant car in a straight line as Bunty. And okay, here's something very interesting. It stopped raining. It has stopped raining. That is very early for the rain to stop. I was expecting the rain to stop maybe around lap 2021 maybe. It's already stopped. So these drivers are going to be thinking about tyres now to the end, and it's got to be the medium, surely, to the end of the race from here in these conditions. The softs are not going to get to the end, and the hards are going to be terrible in these slick conditions. So, yeah, surely these drivers are going to be thinking about a stop for the medium compound tyres now. It's about who goes early and who takes the risk. But, yeah, the rain has stopped way earlier than I was expecting.
Yeah, same here as well, and I think the drivers are going to be relieved because a lot of people are struggling in the wet, and we probably will see the guys like the Haas drivers and Dowie come into their own a little bit more and start to climb up maybe on the dry tyres. And the most crucial thing we're going to see right now is when the track is dry enough, we'll see the DRS sign. That is when we know it's enough for dry tyres. Well, obviously some of the drivers will be pitting earlier than that to get full advantage as well, and we will see the double stacking once again. This race could not get crazy enough. Oh my word, Caesar's out the race. And has he retired in the pit? It looks like he's retired in the pit. So no safety car. I thought we were going to get a safety car to spice things up, but luckily we weren't. So Caesar makes it our second retirement. Both Ferrari power cars, one Alfa Romeo and one Ferrari. So that just leaves one Ferrari and one Alfa Romeo in this race. Bunty and Paste try and score points for their constructors as well. We did see Cam actually pit earlier, first out of everyone on the grid so far. Will he be the first again today, or will anybody else jump the gun first? I don't think it's the right time to go on to 6 yet. It's still far too damp, so maybe in a few laps time, we don't know. But don't forget the softs could only last 8 laps. The mediums could last 14 laps. The mediums will definitely get to the end from here. The softs, definitely not. If people go for the softs, they're going to need a miraculous end to the race that their tyres are just not going to die in the puncture age. So go on to mediums to the end, no problem at all. And it's going to look good for the ones who have not used medium tyres yet in this race, especially the guys who started inside the top 10. People outside the top 10, I'm not sure if they got any mediums left, especially they used it in qualifying. So they're pretty much screwed in that sense. They may have to forcibly go on a hard. So I think the ones that are good in this situation are the ones who started on the soft and haven't used mediums yet in the race, or the ones who have not used mediums, well, who used mediums in qualifying and have not used it in the race. But it's not good if you use mediums in quali and at the start of the race. I need to double check back at the stream who has done that, they're going to be in a lot of trouble here. They will probably have to be forced to go onto the hard tyres. The ones like Jayco and Brent, though, they're looking very, very strong. McCurrick, I'm not sure. Did McCurrick do a lap on the medium tyres?
He did,
He may have to go onto the hard tyres. He may have to go to the hard tyres until the end, and that is going to be very, very unfortunate.
We'll have to wait and see what he does. Of course, the medium tyres will have about probably around 8 or 9% wear after the quali runs that Rikurik did. We'll wait and see. He could get to the end on those, but of course they won't be at their best.
He started on mediums, though. He started on mediums.
He will have a used set that he can use, of course, that you do get a fresh set for the race. So the ones he'll go on to will be those will be the ones used in qualifying. And of course, now that we've run the intermediate tyres, they don't have to run a different set of dry compound tyres. There's a yellow flag in sector 2. That is Timat that's gone for a spin down at the Mistral chicane by the looks of things. He continues on, I don't think with any damage, but it's not been the race that he would have wanted. His teammate at the moment sitting comfortable in second, but the problem really for the front runners is that Brent can't keep up with J. Cole and Tope can't keep up with Brent, so they're kind of spreading out at the front of the field. J. Cole has dominated proceedings so far, apart from the first lap where he had a poor apart from the start where he had a poor start. He's looked great since then. Rikurik and Bunty seem to be the fastest at the moment in the pack. Rikurik is all over the back of Old School. And Bunty going for the move on Maverick at the last corner here, down the inside. Can he get the traction out of the corner? It looks like he can. Has he got the move down into turn number 1? Who's got the better car in a straight line down towards the corner? Maverick still looking down the inside, but Bunty is going to have it. Bunty up 3 places in these wet conditions. Bunty's been really the only one that has been able to pass people in these wet conditions. He is, of course, still got that time penalty, but he's trying to make up for the places he lost in that early pit stop phase. And one thing to note, while it has stopped raining, the track is not drying out anywhere near fast enough. It is still fairly damp, so we're getting to a point in the race where they could feasibly put the softs on and go to the end. If you can get to lap 18, you can get the softs on and go to the end just about. It was all Bunty, a big snap of oversteer there, and that's going to put Maverick right on him, but Rikurik is going down the inside of Old School. Up another place goes Rikurik from 18th on the grid. He's up to 4th. No way is Rikurik going to get a podium from the back of the grid in this race. What a performance that would be, but Rikurik up to 4th. He continues to march forward. Bunty just holds on to 6th for the time being for Maverick, but that was a close call from the Alfa Romeo man. He holds on. Rikurik, though, is absolutely flying. He's up to 4th and is only a second off a podium from 18th on the grid.
I have to say, from McCurrick, this is absolutely insane. He's going to hope the track stays like this to around about lap 20, lap 21, because that could be the point where you can go onto the soft compound tyres. There are some dry parts of the track, but it's nowhere near dry enough to go onto the slick. So McCurrick is just going to hope it's like this for 3 or 4 laps, and he should be absolutely fine, and he could be on course for a very brilliant result. He's on no penalties as well, so he's looking very, very impressive. He's almost on the back of Tope. Rikurik is another one of those drivers, as well as Bunty. He's been able to make moves in this race, in the wet stages as well. So this is going to be looking absolutely fascinating so far, as Tope is not going to have DRS to rely on at this stage, because there's no DRS activated until the track is dry enough. So he's going to have a chase for Rikurik behind him. Hopefully he looks at his mirrors, though, because this could be a very interesting fight. Back up at the front, Jayco has stretched the lead again by another 1.5 seconds. It's 3.5 now, the gap between P1 and P2. The race that he did last night in PC has definitely helped him.
Yeah, it definitely has, hasn't it? He's flying at this point in the race, nearly 4 seconds clear. He's loving these conditions. That yellow flag is for Mats. Mats has put the medium tyres on, but he's not got the grip or the pace at the moment. Yeah, far too early, like you say. It's Rikurik. Look at this. It's already on the back of Tope for 3rd place. What a race this has been from Rikurik. When can you think about this move? Does he go for the move now, or does he wait until he comes into the pits? But it's taking so long to dry out at this point in the race that these tyres are going to be burning up at this point, especially in these conditions. The intermediate tyres are going to be horrible at this point in the race. There's barely any spray. There's barely any water. The tyres are going to be overheating. It's just going to make it worse, which is probably why those that can manage their tyres are doing so well at this point in the race, specifically Rikurik and J. Cole, because they seem to be able to manage their intermediates much better than anyone else. J. Cole still leads, 4 seconds clear. Brent is having a great race as well in 2nd place. Remember, these guys finished 4th and 5th last season at France. They're now running 1 and 2, so these two are fairly close to one another around this track. And of course, Rikurik finished just ahead of them last season, and he's working his way forwards, trying to beat at least one of them in this race. Is Rikurik going to think about a move into the last corner? He's not close enough for the dive, but he is basically pushing the Williams of Tope along at this point in the race. He's absolutely flying. By the way, RJ, our championship leader, has worked his way back up into the points, but he's got a time penalty lingering over him, and at the moment that will drop him behind both of the Alpines. So he is still not scoring points at this point in the race. They're all starting to queue up a little bit behind Maverick, who is struggling in these conditions on the intermediate tyres. He's not looked that far since the restart. Restarted 5th. He's down to 7th at the moment. We've got to keep our eye on Rekurik, though. He's the man on a mission. Can he work his way past Tope this time around on the straight? Can he get the run through turn number 5 and 6 through 5? Look at how much more grip he's got in the front end of that car. Through the corner, through turn number 6. Can he get the traction down earlier? Yes, he can. Through turn number 7, it's pretty much flat out. He's close enough to think about a run here. The toe is very strong. DRS has just been enabled, but he won't get it because he passed the detection point before he got enabled.
Oh, he
might not need...
does.
He does. He got it open. You get down the inside. Is he late enough on the brakes? No, he's not. Tope late defensive around the outside. Brakes late enough to hold the place. Rekurik stays in 4th for the time being, but DRS has been enabled. Passey's used it to his effect. He's got past Kamke. Passey's back into the top 10 after his early spin, and RJ is going to think about a move as well. DRS being enabled, though, we are on the cusp of slick conditions. Who goes for the slicks? I think if anybody comes in for the slicks from now, J. Cole doesn't have to worry because he's now 5 seconds clear at the front of the field. He is a second a lap faster than anybody else.
Yeah, he is. So if he goes in now, it doesn't matter. If he doesn't, it doesn't matter as well.
He's in.
He's triggering. He's in. Well, he has to. The DRS is enabled, but the track is still damp, for goodness sake. So they're going to find it quite difficult to be on those slick tyres for the first few laps or so. And the question is, who's going to be the one that manages those pretty much on the cusp conditions?
They're all in.
The best. Soft tyres for J. Cole then. That is a bit risky because it could only last about 8 laps. It is on the cusp, but it is cooler conditions, so they could last a long time. Brent, on the soft tyres, what does Tope? Surely is on mediums. No, there's soft tyres for him. Rekurik's the only driver out of everybody else to go onto the mediums. Who else is on the mediums? We've got Maverick onto the medium tyres. We've got a swarm of cars coming in right now. At the moment, as J. Cole has still got a comfortable lead over Brent, 5.1 seconds. But let's look at the tyres. Rekurik, mediums, old school softs, Bunty softs. And we're seeing old school and Bunty actually going side by side. We're actually seeing the tyre difference. Old school's had a bit of a spin. He's had a bit of a spin in turn 1. Surely the track is still damp. But to be honest, I did say as who can manage the conditions the best. And old school is now out of the points. But let me just keep an eye on the tyres again. So Rekurik, mediums. Bunty soft, we've got Maverick on the mediums, Luke softs, White on the mediums, Hussey on the softs, Cam on the
Bunty's
mediums.
round.
Bunty's round as well, so it's probably still damp for these conditions, and maybe the mediums could be the best. Cam's up to 8th. He's just gone past a strain of cars, so maybe the medium tyres are the best tyres for these type of conditions. He's already catching up to White right now. He's probably loving these conditions. Everyone from P11 downward is on the soft to 6 deep. Noah's on the mediums, and so is Matt's, obviously, who pitted earlier as well. But to be honest, J. Cole, it doesn't matter what tyres you go on, he'll still be in the race lead. But Cam and RJ are having a nice battle for P8 on in the field at the moment. Past turn 10 right now as well. RJ could try and have a look up the inside, doesn't quite do so. Maverick and Luke are also going for a move as well, heading towards the understeery part of turn 12. We got Maverick just keeps to the left-hand side line. Now we got the Aston Martin of Luke also trying to go for that line as well. Couldn't quite make it work. Marty's got a 3-second time penalty added to his list, but wow, what
a lap.
What these few laps have been so far. J. Cole still leads the way, and it looks like the medium runners are still having an advantage at the moment because the track is still quite damp and quite slippery as well, as Luke gets past Maverick. As I said that, and so as RJ gets past Cam as well. So the softs are starting to be more grippier. A few laps ago, it was the mediums that were the best tyre. This lap, it's definitely the softs.
The softs definitely have more grip at this point in the race. It's whether they can hold on to the end now from here, and whether Rekurik's dropped back from Tope, but the mediums will come into effect more around lap 24 and 25. So can Rekurik gain the time back in the latter stages of this race? As if Passey's race couldn't get any worse, he picked up damage at that restart, and he's now down for another pit stop and down into 17th. He was looking forward to this race so much after a poor race in Imola. He's last and well out of the points, and it's gonna have to take some extreme luck for him to get back in the points at this point, as RJ gets past White and Rex gets past Camke. So it's all shifted around at the moment. RJ is all of a sudden up into 10th, but it has the time penalty. Old School's recovered into the points, at least into 11th now, but he's got a string of medium runners in a queue at the moment. One thing to note, where on earth has Luke come from in this race? He's now in the top 5. Of course,
Wow.
he finished 4th last week, of course. He hadn't had the best of runs in the intermediate conditions. Now back into the top 5. Ever the consistent driver. There's a reason why the Ferraris were right up there in the manufacturers last season, as Bunty and J-Luke, I think, have had a coming together through that fast turn 10, and they've both spun off the track, so they are now well down and out of it. Bunty, who was looking so good, was leading after turn 1, is now well out of the points. What a horror show it's been for Bunty ever since the first pit stops in this race. He mistimed the first stops, and it's just fallen apart since then. J-Luke's had a horror show of a race from the back of the field. He's not been able to work his way forward, unlike some of the others like Rekurik. Rekurik's now nearly 3 seconds back, but it's all about whether he can recover towards the end. So we've got to keep an eye on Rekurik. J. Cole here, unless he makes a mistake, J. Cole's got this in the palm of his hands, and Brent's got second in the palm of his hands as well, because he is looking just as consistent, just not as fast at the moment. Our top 2, you've got to say, at this point in the race, looking pretty solid. It's whether Rekurik can come at Tope by the end.
I think these two can afford to do a bit of tyre saving towards the end, because we do know it's going to be on the cusp of puncher territory towards the end of this race, so they could really go for a push. But I'll be worried for the ones who are in a battle right now, who are about 4/10 behind the cars, like RJ, for example, like Old School. These are the ones who really need to start getting the moves done first, because otherwise they won't have chance to save their tyres. And speaking of that, Old School gets past Cam, and he's up into 10th position, so he's still going to be getting in the points. Actually, his pace on the softs looking quite good for Old School. We got Rex and YYY going for a battle. RJ versus Maverick going for a battle as well. RJ gets past into Sip. He does have a time penalty. So Maverick, at the moment, as it stands, will finish ahead of RJ in terms of the standing. So Maverick looking quite good there. RJ, our championship leader, I don't think will be the championship leader going into the next round, because obviously Tope, he will get another podium. 2 second and well, I can't remember where he finished last week. Actually, I think it was third place, because his teammate Darry finished ahead of him. So a second, third place in a row would be quite good for him so far, and no immediate battle so far, unless Rex could do anything about it. He's got the DRS on YYY. Is he going to be close enough to get past turn 1? No, not quite close enough, so he has to forcibly stay behind yet another sector, but he could get past him into turn 8. We're not that far until the end of this race, and still plenty of things could happen. We still could have a late safety car that could change things massively, which could help the soft runners, or we just could see the battles stay as they are, and we could see obviously a few people dominating. We'll have to wait and see. Rekurik not looking as good as he was on his wet stint and the opening stint on the dries, but to be fair, from last on the grid to P4, I would take that in a heartbeat. It's RJ gets past Luke up to 5th. What a recovery drive from RJ as well.
Yeah, brilliant recovery drive, like you say, up to 5th after that horror show of a first lap. Even though he has that time penalty, he is gapping the drivers behind quite nicely. As it stands, he will be a net P7, so he will keep the championship lead, I think, by a single point over Tope at the moment, if the race were to end now. So that's how close it is. As it stands, if Tope gets the fastest lap of the race, they'd be level on points going into round 3. So that would be brilliant, wouldn't it?
Wow.
One thing to note on this lap, though, Rekurik has not lost any... Well, Rekurik goes completely off the track there at turn number 12, but Rekurik has not lost really any time to Tope on this lap. So it's starting to level out between the soft and the medium compound tyres. So are we now going to see Rekurik start to come back at Tope just a little bit? I say that, though, Rekurik's had a bit of a poor final sector on this lap, so he's lost a bit more time on this one. J. Cole is miles clear. RJ, though, now with the fastest lap of the race. I think RJ would have been hoping this full race was dry, because in the dry conditions, at least, RJ has absolutely brilliant race pace. It's just in the intermediate conditions, stuck down there in about 12th and 13th, couldn't go anywhere. So in the dry conditions, at least, our championship leader has brilliant race pace. It's just not played out for him in this race so far. So RJ right up there once again. J. Cole still leads this way, but J. Cole now 7 seconds clear.
Wow.
What a race it's been for J. Cole. Around the track where you would expect DRS trains to form, the field's very spread out. J. Cole leads by 7 seconds, but likewise, Brent has had a brilliant race as well. If J. Cole wasn't in this race, Brent would also be dominating the race. So both of them have had brilliant races. Tope again in third. Tope, you've got to say, so far from round 1 to round 2, has been the only consistent figure, as Bunty sets the fastest lap, but he is out of the points, so he will not get the point for fastest lap with that as it stands. So down in 18th at the moment, he at least takes the point away from RJ. But yeah, the only consistent figure from round 1 to round 2 so far has been Tope in 3rd.
To be honest, he probably won't be too disappointed if he doesn't get the win today, does Tope? Because consistency is what helps you win championships. And with him closing up to RJ in the championship will really help him a little bit. As just look at the fastest lap times that J. Cole is producing. 1:31.996. In the PC race last night, he finished 11th. He's going to finish 10 places higher than last night as well. And I'm guessing he did his homework from last night, knew where he did what he did wrong and how to rectify it for tonight's race. Of course, obviously the PC grid is a little bit more stacked and quicker compared to obviously the PlayStation grid. RJ even finished ahead of him last night as well. RJ finished 6th. He's going to finish 7th, I believe. So what has happened to their form compared to last night, I don't know. But I have to say, we're going to see one very happy. Ooh. I think this is it's Old School's got a penalty. This is going to be one person's fault. As Old School is out the race. Can we see a late safety car? Yes, we are. Oh my word! Could this race get any crazier? I was about to say something about J. Cole, but I'm going to scrap that until the end of the race now because this could change things massively. It's not good news for RJ, Marty, Darry, J. Luke, Noah J, Matt and Bonte. They got penalties. But that is brilliant news. If you do not have any time penalties, we are going to have a 1 lap or 2 lap race shootout for the race victory. J. Cole has not had the best of restarts at the best of times, so he's got to hope that he has to restart a Dream Tier today because that is what separates him from the win of this race. Brent could have a second chance to get the win. I don't know what I would do. Would I get track position and stay on the soft tyres, or would I come in for a fresh set of softs?
Brent's in.
Brent comes in then. Brent comes in for a fresh set of softs. J. Cole stays out. I don't know what I would do. Tope stays out. Recurric surely would go on the softs. No, he wants track position. RJ wants track position. So does Lou. Maverick. Rex. YHYY. Cam. Oh no. Did Brent do the wrong thing for staying out? Because it's so hard to overtake around this track. I would have done it if everyone else would have done it. But Brent has probably gone to draw the short straw, but you never know, he could claw back, but most people have stayed out. Marty has come in, so has Darry, J-Luke, and J-Luke as well. The top 9 pretty much stayed in, and one in the trap position as well. I have to say, Rex could be back in this. YHYY could be back in this as well. The Haas drivers are going to score massive. I believe Haas are one of the only teams to not score any points in this season so far. They could be on for a brilliant result in the constructors with Recurric. Recurric's in P3. He could be on course to be winning this race on those mediums, but obviously J. Cole and Tope, their tyres are going to be dead. So I think the favourite has got to be Recurric for the race win.
It could be very possible, couldn't it? The medium tyres should be now possibly the better tyre. I think that's the wrong call from Brent. I think that is the wrong call. When they cross the line, there's only 2 laps left in the race. The DRS is not going to be a thing. Safety car's in this lap. I thought it would be. Safety car's going to come in because you have to have 2 laps of racing on this game to finish off a race. So those at the back of the field are not going to catch the safety car in time. So that's not going to help them in this one. Brent's given up 8 places of track position. He's not going to gain 8 places in 2 laps. That is I think that's the second time now this season we've seen that from Brent, hasn't it? Brent was running towards the front in Imola and then pitted for a second time and dropped down the field when he could have easily made the end of the race. The strategy calls at the moment are costing Brent a lot of points. So that's not the right call from Brent in the AlphaTauri. That's dropped him out of a comfortable second place in this race, I think. He had the pace to hold on to second at least and maybe charge for the win. He's now well down into 10th place. So that has given Tope second place in this race. RJ is going to allow lose more places with that time penalty. So Tope now sitting pretty championship-wise. Recurric now with a great opportunity on those medium tyres. J. Cole has gone for the safety car restart. It's gone earlier than last time. It's gone before the last corner then. Tope's not close enough to react, but I thought Recurric might be close enough, but he hasn't got the run out of the final corner. Has anybody got the run out of the final corner? Brent has on the back of Cam K. Can he get the move into turn 1? He's got to get on with it now, as YHYY's not had a good restart either, but he's on the ERS. He's not close enough for a move at turn 1. He's not going to get the move on. He's almost into the back of the Red Bull there. Just about gets away with it. He's going to get the run to turn 3. Definitely here, surely, on the Red Bull, man, as RJ picks up a 5-second penalty for ignoring a yellow flag. Interestingly, I don't know what that penalty is for, because he's not overtaken somebody, but YHYY now with the time penalty. RJ RJ with another penalty. I wouldn't be surprised if that gets removed because I didn't see what the yellow flag was for and he hadn't overtaken anybody. That is a really, really weird penalty, but we'll wait and see for the rest of this race. J. Cole leads. He's already nearly a second clear of Tope. I think J. Cole is safe in this race, especially with no DRS. Yeah, Maverick as well. Maverick's going for a move on Luke for 5th place. Can he get round the outside of the Aston Martin? Are the medium tyres the better tyre? Brent's got the move done on YHYY. Can Maverick get the move done on Luke? No, he can't. Rex is there to pounce as well, but he's not quite close enough. Brent is up 2 places, but he's not getting through the field quickly enough at this point in the race. He's got possibly the pace on RJ penalty-wise, so it's a net P7 at the moment. Luke is having to defend really hard for Maverick. Maverick trying to go around the outside of 11. That's not going to work. And Rex is going to capitalise, but he's sideways through the corner. Can't get the move done. And here comes now Brent down the inside of turn number 12. Opportunistic move from Brent, but gets spun out. Spun out by Rex on the exit of the corner. I don't know if that was desync or whether there just wasn't left enough room, but Brent's race goes from bad to worse to utterly horrible. My oh my, he's now out of the points. He might get the place on Marty on penalties, but he's just spun again on hot tyres. What a disaster for Brent from a comfortable podium. It is over for him. He is not going to get points in this race. Rekurik's got a lap to get past Tope for second place in this race, but as it stands with no DRS left in this race, I think the top 3 might be settled now.
Yeah, I think so as well. If Brent wouldn't have pitted, I think he would have got P2 for sure over Tope. I don't know. I think Brent just was caught in unnecessary battles, and when he pitted, he got caught with the back, and that's why he spun, and now he's not going to be in the points, and that just shows you've got to play your strategies right in this race, and the top 3 have done so very, very well indeed as well, and we'll have to keep an eye on RJ's penalty to see if that does get removed, because I didn't see any yellow flags, so it's probably just a game glitch on that end. Meanwhile, Maverick's going for more moves. Maverick is having a beauty restart of this race, gets past Luke up into P5. We do have a yellow flag towards turn 7. That is Brent once again, who's had a little bit of a spin. His tyres are overcooked, and just look at the gap between J. Cole and Tope. 1.9 seconds. He's absolutely flying in this race. He's going to be the first person who's translated his driver thoughts for this race to an actual win. He said in his expectations he wants to win, and he is definitely looking like he's going to win this race. I'll hand it over to you. J. Cole's going to hand it past the final few corners.
Yeah, here we go then. J. Cole then around the final corner. What a dominant performance. The start didn't go his way, but he has controlled it ever since he took the lead. What a win from J. Cole. It's almost side by side to the line between Tope and Rekurik, but Tope holds on to second place for a second podium of the season. Rekurik gets third. RJ drops down the field, but we'll see if that 5-second penalty gets removed. It may likely be because we didn't see any yellow flags on our end, but Maverick ends up in 4th place. A great result from him. Rex as well. What a recovery from an early spin for Rex up to P5. Luke in 6th had a Camco and YHY. RJ then down to 9th with those penalties. We'll wait and see where he could have been. I think without that 5-second penalty, RJ would have been between Rex and Luke by the looks of things in 6th place by the looks of things. So my maths are correct. So we'll wait and see whether that one gets removed. Dari ends up in 10th ahead of Marty in the end in 11th position. What a crazy race in the end that one was. But J. Cole, pretty much from the first pit stops onwards, never looked in doubt.
Yeah, the gap that he had in the wet period, I have to say, before the last safety car was insane. And he was able to get the gap to 2 seconds after that restart as well. He learned the mistakes from the first couple of restarts and the start itself of the race. And that really helped him here. And he's got his first win of the season. 2 different race winners of the season. We had RJ in Imola. And, of course, we have J. Cole here as well. But Tope with another P3. That's going to look very, very good for the rest of the season as well. We don't know what this does for the championship. I think we will have to wait, obviously, until the stewards look into the removal of RJ's penalty. But your results are as follows. J. Cole is your race winner and 2 seconds faster than his race pace from last night. So it just goes to show the massive improvement that he's had. Tope second, Rekurik, then we got Maverick, Rex, Luke, Cam, Roy HYY, RJ, Dari, Marty, J-Luke recovered to 12 after some spins earlier. So that final safety car restart has definitely helped him. They get your points, and Marty gets the extra point for the fastest lap as well. And your retirements are Matt. No, you're not your retirements. Matt, Sarah J, Bunty, Passe, Brent are your finishers, and your retirements are Old School, Caesar, and Rez. What a race. And are we going to have time for interviews? Because I'm sure we will have one happy organiser in the chat coming up very, very soon. I think he's going to be very delighted with that performance.
Yeah, let's hopefully get some interviews in then. Jess, if you want to invite
Yep.
our top three into the party, that would be great to get a word in with them. Rakurik, remember, third in this race from 18th on the grid. That is a way to start off your season. Of course, he missed the first round, but with a lot of our championship protagonists from the first round not having great races, that is still good for his proceedings to finish on the podium in his first race of the season. Of course, RJ, we'll wait and see what his penalty is like. But even with that penalty removal, I think Taupe would take the lead of the championship anyway with that second place finish. So that is Taupe possibly into the lead of this championship on a 33 points he should be on after this race. So congratulations to him if that is the case, and we'll wait and see. Of course, with stewards reports and things that will come out later on this week. But before we get our top three in, who do you think, Jess, is your driver of the day in this race? I think it's fairly obvious, but who do you think your driver of the day is?
Well, I've got two. I've got J. Cole for absolutely dominating this race from the pit stops, and obviously Recurrig for climbing up from the last on the grid to finish on the podium. So I'll definitely, it's a very, very close. I'll give a joint drive of the day to both J. Cole and Recurrig, I think. And what a great season opener for Recurrig, because he missed last week as well. So the season start for him couldn't go any better at the moment.
Yeah, couldn't go any better, like you say. Shout out as well to Maverick, P4 in that race from 14th on the grid. A great drive from him as well. Avoided all the trouble and gained places late on that he lost in the wet conditions. So brilliant recovery of that from him to finish P4. Of course, didn't have the best of races last time at Imola, so he'll be pretty pleased with getting a solid result in this race as well then. So before we get our top three in, we'll just remind you, of course, of what's coming up for the rest of the season. That was round two. Round three next week will be at the Portimao circuit in Portugal. So again, a track maybe a little bit more similar to France in kind of circuit layout, a long, obviously very long pit straight, and then a lot of longer radius corners, but on top of that, we've got a lot of elevation change, which is of course very different to Paul Ricard, which is basically a completely flat circuit. It is of course pretty much a testing track, which is why that is the case. But we have now got our race winner in the chat, so let's have a discussion with J. Cole, who of course I think is pretty ecstatic after that performance. J. Cole, what a dominant drive that was from you. How was that from your side of things?
Oh, yeah, I don't know how to describe that, to be honest with you. I'm happy. Finally, it's been 3 seasons since I've actually taken a win. So
wow,
yeah, I'm gassed. I'm very happy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to mention that it's been 3 seasons since your last win. Last season, of course, you picked up, I think, 1 podium last season, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, really, really dominant drive from you in the end, and no one really came close. I think the only trepidation you had in that race was the very start. So talk us through kind of what happened off the line. Did you just not get a good start, or was it just an incredible start from Bunty?
Probably a mix of both. I definitely did not have a good start. I got swarmed by Bunny, Passe, and Rex, I think it was. And then for some reason, Passe and Rex decided they wanted to try and make it 3 wide into turn 1. I do want to apologise to Passe because I think I might have broken his front wing. But other than that, yeah, there's not much more I could have really done. Yeah, it's just how it is. It's lap 1, turn 1. Can't do much.
Yeah, can't do much, like you say. It's just one of those things. By the looks of it, I don't think Passe did break his front wing, but he did later on in the race. So, yeah, unfortunately, he didn't really recover. But, of course, dominant performance. I would talk to you more about what happened in the race, but there's not really much for you that happened in the race. In the end, it was so dominant. I think just a word on your wet performance, though. What a drive that was in the wet. Was your car set up more for the wet, or was it set up more for the dry? Because in the wet, you were pretty much a second a lap faster than everybody else.
It was more set up for the dry, that's for sure. So considering I was going about a second faster in the wet, that was surprised me. But I do like, to be fair, I do like driving in the wet a lot of the time as well. So I was just very happy with how I did the whole performance. Just yeah, I was very happy with how I did.
Yeah, brilliant performance from you then, Jess. Have you got anything you'd like to add?
Well, not really. You kind of nicked my questions, but I have to say, stellar performance. I'm really kind of glad you ended your winless streak. And Eloise, how are you feeling about the next track on the calendar? Do you think you can replicate that performance, or do you think you need to work harder for it?
I need to check what the next track is actually.
Portimao.
Okay, that's no. To be fair, Portimao's okay for me. Like there's certain parts of it that I know I can do good at, and certain parts where I might struggle. So. I'll be surprised if I win that next week, but yeah, again, I'll just be happy if I can just at least come back on the podium. Before I do as well, I just want to say, Mark, I'm telling you, you're getting it this season. Don't even try anything. you're going to be beating me this season because you are getting it.
Well, you beat him today, of course. And out of the drivers who we asked about your driver thoughts, I think you're the only person who translated your driver expectations to actual performance. You said you were going to win, and you won. So hopefully you can do the same next week. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations to yourself, J. Cole, and what a great way as well to kick off your championship campaign after that performance. We'll move on to our second place driver. I believe Tope is in the party, which is great to see as well. Just before we get going, make sure, Tope, that your voice is sharing. But congratulations, another podium, your second podium of the season. Of course, a second place finish this time around rather than a third place. And that puts you, I believe, after that round, in the lead of the championship. How are you feeling after that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
Lost for words.
Lost for words, definitely. Seems like it. Second place finish, and then it seemed like the race kind of, you spent the majority of the race in third, of course. You didn't quite have the pace to catch Brent and J. Cole, but you were able to hold off Rekurik in the mid phases of the race. Kind of, what was your goal coming in? Was your goal to try and get that podium, or were you expecting maybe not as good a performance this time around?
I don't like friends at all, but yeah, with P6 in qualifying, I was not that happy, and yeah, then I had much fun, much luck, because so many people spun in front of me, and yeah.
Yeah, of course, it played a little bit into your hands in the early phases of the race, of course, and yeah, I guess after the safety car restart, of course, we had Brent come into the pit lane, of course, before that last safety car restart, and you didn't, of course. Was there ever a moment you thought you were going to lose that second place to Rekurik, or were you pretty comfortable in second place?
No, I thought I would become third, because yeah, he comes close very fast when we were on Inters. And yeah, but on the softs I was much faster, and
yeah, brilliant stuff then. Jess, anything you'd like to add?
Well, your consistency is showing, like George Russell was saying, to put you in the lead of the championship as well. Are you gonna continue that consistent form in Portimao? Is that a track that you've done well in the past, or is this something where you probably have to tweak yourself up a little bit? What do you like about Portimao, and what don't you like about Portimao?
I never had a league race and race in Portugal, so I don't know how my pace is there, so I need to train a little bit.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. A little bit of an unknown then, which is good to see. But of course, congratulations on another podium this season and into the lead of the championship as well. Good luck for round 3. We'll quickly move on then to Rekurik. And, well, welcome back to the podium interviews, Rekurik. Of course, you missed the first round in Imola, but what a way to kick off your championship campaign. A third position from pretty much the back of the field. How was that from your side of things?
Thank you. And yeah, it was very fun. Starting from the back, I wanted to start outside of top 10. I didn't know if softs would last until the rain. But yeah, I started from the back, watched everybody spin in front of me, and yeah, it just came together. And at the end, I wish there was one more lap with DRS, I would have gotten Tope. But yeah, not to be, but yeah, third place. I'm happy.
Yeah, very, very good start to your championship campaign, of course. So talk us through kind of those opening few phases of the race, because you went from, well, pretty much 18th up to, I think it was 7th before the first pit stop phase. So was it a case of you were blitzing through the field on the mediums, or was it just kind of avoiding all the carnage?
Yeah, first 2 laps I saw people spinning left and right, first lap especially, and after that I just waited a couple of laps until the softs were down, and then I had much better, faster car, and managed to overtake a couple of guys, and that was it. Easy.
Yeah, easy stuff from your end, and obviously that strategy in the end played out beautifully for you as well. I guess the last thing as well, you mentioned you wish you had another lap to go to the end, of course, for that second place finish, but a third is still a great way to kick off your championship campaign. How are you feeling about the rest of the championship now? Is it something that you're looking forward to, and do you think you can be a front runner?
We'll see. I should be able to attend pretty much all the rest of the races, and like I was 5th last season, and top 4 guys went to D2, so I should have a chance. But yeah, you never know. I'm just having fun.
Yeah, having fun is the best part of it, of course, and the results come if you're having fun. So absolutely brilliant stuff from you today. Jess, anything you'd like to add?
How on earth did you get from last to third? I mean that is something that you probably was not expecting there. With Portugal, a track where probably it's going to be harder to overtake. How important is it, do you think, to get a good qualifying session next week and definitely not start near the back?
For sure, if I do qualifying with the softest tires, I will be up there. But but I'm hoping. I've done 2 league races there. Both qualifyings were wet, so I'm hoping for a wet one again.
Well, wet races definitely throw a spanner in the works, that's for sure. We found that today. So congratulations for Curry, your first race of the season and your first podium. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations, of course. And that is it for the stream tonight. Thank you, Jess, by the way, for letting me know. Championship standings after round 2. Then Taupe will lead the championship by 4 points over RJ after the first round. So that is what it is going to be heading into round 3. We're already off to a great start in this championship. And within one round, J. Cole's throwing himself right in the mix as well on 25 points. So it is all to play for in the very early phases of this championship. Thank you to all 3 of you for joining us in the party. Thank you to Jess as well for commentating alongside me once again this week. We shall wait and see what's going to come at Portimao, but I'm sure it's going to be another great race, and maybe we'll see 3 winners out of 3. But thank you to everybody for tuning in this evening, and we will see you this time next week. Take care and goodbye.